It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 516. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hello.
And Tam.
Hello.
So apologies for not having a show last week. Everything was burning and it was doing a number on my asthma and I was not talking terribly well. But we're back with things.
I don't like this new prevalence of literal firestorms.
Yeah, it's okay. So fires in Oklahoma is not an unheard of thing, but it's usually like, oops, a pasture caught on fire. Not, here comes a firestorm that's going to eat this town. And like basically 300-ish buildings were destroyed, which we're not used to urban fires. So that is newness. Thankfully there wasn't much in the way of a death count and people got out okay for the most part. But yeah, the entire state was smoky and it was not fun. So one of the things that we probably would have talked about last week, that has changed slightly for this week is the whole situation with EHG and Grinding Gear Games, which for those who don't understand what those acronyms are, that is the folks behind Path of Exile and the folks behind Last Epoch, where Last Epoch had announced that they were releasing a new expansion, or a new season is what they're now calling them, on April 2nd. And then, I don't know, a few weeks later, Grinding Gear Games announced they were doing a Path of Exile league for Path of Exile 2 2 days after the start of Last Epoch's season. And
I feel like it was more than just a couple of weeks that EHG had announced the 2nd as their date. I don't know. I could be wrong. I feel like it was more than just a few weeks.
No, that's I have the same feeling.
Like it was maybe a month-ish. Because I want to say they told everyone maybe in February sometime when the actual date for the Last Epoch season was.
But regardless, the common understanding is that the studios have been talking to each other and we're on relatively friendly terms. So I have no doubt that GGG knew before it was announced.
Yeah, so it's basically coming out from folks connected to it that, yes, they absolutely said, hey, Path of Exile folks, we're going to release on this day, just so you're aware.
I am looking at Reddit. It was, which has the post for this 2 months ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it was longer than I remember. Time has no meaning.
So it's been...
It was a while ago that they had announced this.
Yeah, they've been planning for it. They've been ramping up for it. They had, streamers and Twitch drops and...
it's not a good look for PoE.
Well, because yes, and then GGG just announced that they were going to step on their date.
Yep. And supposedly GGG has said, well, we couldn't release any other day for whatever that means, but...
I mean, that's a bullshit response, quite frankly.
Yeah, man, my eyes are rolling out of my head at that.
My thought is that,
Go ahead.
There is a possibility that that's a true statement from the perspective of they have investors.
Yeah.
But it feels like no, actually, you didn't have to do that.
And the
Feels
thing
like they're starting shit when they didn't need to.
Yes. But the thing that pleasantly surprised me, is there's been a million streamer reaction videos to this. There's lots of various posts in the usual places, and the general outpouring of support for Last Epoch really pleasantly surprised me. A lot of people who just, hey, I'm really excited about Last Epoch. It's a great game, and PoE 2 is still early access and it doesn't feel complete. So I'm focused on Last Epoch. Or the people who like both of them, but look at what happened and go, oof, GGG.
Yeah.
That is really rude, and I'm gonna throw my support behind Last Epoch.
Yeah. So I was also surprised.
Like, you could go look at any of these videos, and like almost the entirety of the thread is like, nah, I'm gonna play Last Epoch. I can catch PoE 2 later.
I'm just gonna say, for a lot of people, PoE 2 does not feel very good to play right now.
It's true.
No, and I don't think that there's anything that they could have done in the last few months to make that game feel substantively different.
I'll say that the one thing I would give for PoE 2, which is possibly part of the issue, is it does seem to be a much more popular streamer game than Last Epoch. Like, if you're looking at what game is getting the big attention from big streamers, it's PoE 2 versus Last Epoch.
Yeah, but like even that's reversed with the release of the Freesia event. Everybody dropped PoE 2 like it was a hot rock and moved back to PoE 1. I mean, there's a lot of people that were not PoE 1 community folks that are still playing it, but I don't know. Like, I do not think that PoE 2 has been as well received as they thought it was going to be.
Maybe they will also pull a D4 and be like, actually, this game needs to be a lot blastier.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this upcoming patch is going to essentially nerf everything back to the slow, methodical gameplay that they wanted it to be.
Wait, did we?
What do you mean
gotten
back
details?
to? We do not have any details.
No, we don't have any details, but like, I don't know. I do not think that GGG intended for these full screen clearing builds to exist in their slow, methodical combat game.
Oh no,
I hope
those
they
were
have
the
good
only
luck
fun
with that.
builds.
Yeah, like the only fun builds are the ones that are blowing up entire screens, but they're all basically doing it by exploiting some kind of either bug or unintended, interaction. Like, Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder probably shouldn't be proccing off each other.
They proc off each other. Well, if you can get one of them to do the thing, they proc off each other in PoE 1.
Yeah. Maybe they shouldn't be proccing off each other as successfully as they do. Because they'll do full screen cascades. I don't know. Like, I think the 0.2.0 patch is going to kind of be a battle for the soul of the game. And I like, my gut reaction is I don't think people are going to be happy with it.
But the good thing is they only have to play it for, 2 weeks, and then they can play Last Epoch.
It's
true. Because Last Epoch, so basically one of the things that was a very true statement that I heard lots of people say is that in general, when there's event leagues like this, people don't usually go back to a previous game. They just keep jumping to the next one. So it was real harsh to have like 2-day run on your own, and then another game drops, and that's obviously going to distract a certain amount of the zeitgeist. But it's moved to the 17th now, so there'll be like 2 weeks for people to play PoE 2 if they want to, and then jump into Last Epoch. I'm still super interested in everything that I'm seeing about Last Epoch.
Yeah, I'm so psyched for this patch. Mostly, I'm mad that they moved the date only because I was not going to play PoE 2 either way. So
Yeah,
I really just
yeah.
wanted the Last Epoch patch to get here. But I am glad that they moved it for their own sake, because it is it's going to be significantly better for the long-term health of the game if
Yeah.
people have time to really dig their teeth into it and
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
then
feel like
throw
there's
them
a
some
lot.
support.
I feel like there's a lot of people that didn't really give it a fair shake because they got to monoliths and then kind of got bored with monoliths and then moved on and never really played it again after the 1.0 launch.
And
I mean, you can count me as a player who gets kind of quickly bored with monoliths. However, I also play a bunch of different classes, so like I get a lot of
Yeah.
enjoyment out of build making in that game.
Yeah, I get
same.
more. I think I enjoy this game more for playing lots of classes than to go deep. Whereas in Path of Exile, the idea of playing more than one class does feel like a nightmare.
And I like both, and I still get bored of monoliths, so I'm excited that there's a lot more to do in monoliths now.
Well, the thing that really excites me the most that's come out in the last week or so is the fact that monolith progress is tied to your stash, not tied to your character. So you'll be able to like run alts up to the same level in the monolith that you were previously, so that you won't have to do normal monoliths if you don't want to. Like if you've got a build that you feel can do
Empowered
monoliths right away, then yeah, you can just jump straight to it.
I've had some builds that good, yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's cool. The more things that you can tie at an account level, the better, I think. I think you're also going to be able to like join your faction in the starting town, maybe. I vaguely remember them saying something to that effect.
I don't know if that's going to be this time around or not, but that would also be nice.
Yeah, like there was some discussion, but I've not heard anything recently. But like that would be cool, so that you're at least gaining faction early on. I don't know.
You can always do that on alts.
Right. I'm really, really, really interested to see what two-handed plus shield Forge Guard feels like. Especially, like, of course I'm going to play it, but like there's specific uniques that seem like they'd be really good. Like, I think it's called Titan Heart, which is the one that like causes you to basically have more defenses while you're wielding a two-hander. And if you're already like on a two-hander blocky character that has a shield, and you can use that too.
But yeah, extremely sad that Last Epoch got pushed back, but it is good for them, and it also helps that, you know, the next D4 season looks pretty bad, so I'm not
so
in
it's
any
even
hurry
worse.
to hop out to play D4.
It's even worse than I thought, because like we talked about them simplifying the boss spawns, and probably the highlight of Diablo 4 Seasons for me has been when Grace and I have a stack of boss materials and we'll chain through, I don't know, 80 boss spawns of various types in an afternoon. So they made it so that you have to pay for loot no matter what. So you can't like double dip on each other's spawns. So that was annoying as well. But then I found out like today while looking at something else, they added a timer between boss spawns.
Wait, what?
So like I think it's like a minute-long timer between the ability to summon bosses.
Blizzard.
Yeah. Like everything about this patch was slowing things down because people were having too much fun in last season. So like why not slow everything down?
Do they know that there's not a subscription for this game? They don't just have to drag things out for the sake of dragging them out?
No, I don't think they do. I do not think they understand that. Like, it's okay if somebody just plays your game for a week. Like, that's perfectly fine. Especially if it was a fun enough experience to bring them back next time. But it sounds like a lot of people are just going to do a hard skip on this season at the end of April. But in more charming news, Wanderstop came out.
It did. This is a game that I guess I saw the trailer at the annual trailer show, the Game Awards, and I was really interested in it. It looked charming and had, the idea is you're a fighter and for whatever reason you can't fight anymore and instead now you're running a tea shop. And so I picked this game up pretty much as soon as I realized that it had come out. And I think I spent probably the first 20 minutes of this game just ugly crying. just yeah, as a person who is maybe on the verge of having some life changes, career changes, not being able to do the things I sort of worked my whole life to try to be good at. The first bit of this game was just a kick in the gut.
Yeah, it's an emotional sucker punch. I've not made it super far, but that intro was definitely a thing.
Yeah. Whew. But I mean, so good, right? So I actually got to credits on it today. And it I needed it in the way that the main character needed to take a break and work in a tea shop for a while. I needed the experience of seeing her journey and working in a tea shop for a while. It's just, yeah, incredibly emotionally impactful and charming. The art is just really sweet and cute. I love all of the characters and have some feelings about. I don't want to talk too much about the story because I know other folks are playing and haven't gotten that far yet. But I have some feelings about sort of how you interact with characters and how the story changes. But it's just, I don't know, it was an experience that I really needed to have right now. And also, you can always just take time away from the story to plant as many plants as you want and sweep up the leaves and just sit and have some tea. And it's really delightful. I think it might be my first contender for game of the year for this year. Yeah, definitely recommend.
Yeah, I've been stubborn because when a game tells me to play it with a controller, I'm immediately going to try and play it with a keyboard. And I should be playing it with a controller. I think it would be better with a controller, but I'm making my way through the game just fine with keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, I played the whole thing with keyboard and mouse, and it was fine. Once I got used to the way the controls were set up, it was totally fine.
Yeah, there's a few things that are kind of janky, but like mostly it's fine.
But I love the giant tea machine that, you don't just, boil some water and make some tea. There's a giant contraption where you're pulling levers and kicking things.
I love the
Pumping
caterpillar
bellows.
like train thing.
The dishwasher.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's just whimsical for the sake of it, and it even just acknowledges that flat out in the game. Like,
I love
why
that.
is this way? Because it's delightful. Why not? I love
That's awesome.
that when you make your tea, you flip all the levers, whatever, and then you pour the tea. And if you pour too much tea, it overflows your cup. But when that happens, the water drains down and it waters a plant, and then flowers bloom. And maybe the character will acknowledge, like, oh, you poured a perfect cup of tea, but also maybe not. And it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you made tea and maybe you enjoyed it, or maybe someone else enjoyed it.
Is it kind of Stardew-y?
Um,
Not.
I guess
Really?
it's not management, is what you're saying.
No, no, there's not really management. There's not any sort of timers on anything other than like maybe one or two kinds of tea that want you to do something in a certain way. But you have customers that come in and you can talk to them or you can not talk to them. They don't get mad. You can go tend the gardens for a while before you make them their tea, and that's fine. So, yeah, there's not so much management. You can fill up all the planters with pretty flowers and plants, and there's all kinds of different modifiers and things you can do to change their color and size and other things. But you can also just not do any of that. It's totally up to you how much you want to do the things that are available to you. But I completely fell in love with the characters and the place, and so of course I did all the things.
The thing that I appreciated is that they have a button that basically, like, when you press it, it highlights the thing you need to do next.
Yes. Yeah, or just, because the people wander around the little clearing where the tea shop is, and you don't always know where they are, but you can hit a button and it will highlight where everybody is and will show you if somebody wants to talk to you or not. For a game that's about sort of slowing down and intentionally being bored and kind of not wasting time, but just taking your time, the game itself and the mechanics do not waste your time. And I appreciate that. So then it feels like an intentional thing when I choose to slow down and do side things or just wander around and look at how pretty everything is. And it's
That's
not that
really
the
cool.
game is sort of slowing me down and forcing me to do any of that. But yeah, I highly recommend it. I will be interested to talk to other folks once more people have gotten through this story just to get impressions about a few things. But yeah, definitely recommend.
Yeah, I bought it and haven't loaded it up, but it's sort of next on my list.
And it's pretty quick, you know. If you just want to motor through it, I mean, I think I have maybe 11 or 12 hours in the game, and if you just wanted to mainline things, you could probably do it in a quarter of that time. But I mean, I think the point of it was to take it easy, so I really took my time with it.
Another game that I have heard a lot of good things about, Split Fiction.
Yeah. So Tam and I played our way through this.
By which he means absolutely demolished it inside of a week.
Yes. This is probably my first game on the potential for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
It's by the developer of It Takes Two. It's another like co-op in required game. But whereas It Takes Two, I was not like necessarily a huge fan of the story. This story was great.
Yeah, like this is a developer where every game they do is a noticeable leap forward. And like I played a little bit of oh god, I can't remember the name of the prison game.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But it was definitely like trying to be too dark and too edgy and too like
A Way Out.
yeah, a way out. Like it's too heavy to be like a fun thing to just hop into with somebody else. And I feel like they both want to say something in their games, but also want it to be like a cool shared experience.
No,
And, like,
until you said that just now, I did not realize this was the same team that made Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
Yes. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, also this team. Also, like, it's fascinating to see because Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is a solo game.
It's a single-player game with a very strong co-op theme.
Yes. Like, this is this is a studio that is just absolutely dialed into this idea of 2-player co-op, even if what they've made is a solo game. And like Brothers of Tale of Two
Yes.
Sons is an absolutely brilliant game. And I think that when they started to do actual multiplayer co-op, it's not that it's bad, it's just that they didn't quite hit those levels for a little bit, but they really nailed it. Like I think our comment on It Takes Two is that like absolutely brilliant set pieces, super fun, a little annoying in some cases where it was like asking for a little bit too much precision.
Mm-hmm.
But just like a wild romp. But we wish the story was sort of less cringy.
Yes.
Because like I don't know, it was a game about a failing marriage where we were kind of rooting for the divorce.
Yeah.
And that's like I actually think that's an interesting take, but it's not the take the game was trying to make.
Yeah.
Like that was not the message of the game, is that sometimes that is what's best for everyone. But
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's a game that starts off with like, hey, we're talking to our kid about the fact that this marriage is going to be ending and we're trying to make it work. And then like the point of the game is actually we're going to stay together because our kid dreamed us into these little dolls. This game is about a completely unrealistic story about a company trying to steal everyone's creativity so that they can monopolize it. This game might have some opinions. This game feels extremely cathartic, though.
oh yeah.
Like, this game is a bunch of creatives who are staring down the threat, like the threat of AI, and being like, I want a game where I get to punch the AI in the face. Like, punch the person who made the AI in the face. But it's a game about two writers who are in a machine where like they live out their fantasy or science fiction story ideas.
It is two writers grappling with their worst nightmare, another writer's opinions.
But it's extremely sweet and affecting because it's like the stories about like what are the things that you put of yourself into your works. And then the gameplay is just still really tight 3D platforming with so many insane set pieces.
They really like to do a structure where it's like, here is a new area and you're going to get a new set of really quirky powers that you're going to need to use to work together to get through this space. And they're just really good at it. Like they have mastered this arc of, okay, what do I do with this power? This power feels weird. And by the end of it, you're like, I feel like I am a master of this particular weird little power. And through it all, they're just flexing ridiculously on their ability to just create wild set pieces. Like any 10-minute segment of this game could be the apex of another action game. It's there's no filler. It's just like cool moment after cool moment.
I mean, technically there is filler, but the filler is awesome.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Like there's literally like, hey, this is a side story. We should go and do this. And it's like a new creative thing. They're like, actually, you know what I miss? I miss playing SSX Tricky. Let's put SSX Tricky into this game. Okay, now we've put SSX Tricky into this game. Let's have the two players do a points match against each other on their way down this ridiculous sci-fi mountain.
Yeah. There's like, it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's like little homages to all kinds of things. There's tons of little places where you can, either sit and have a conversation, which is kind of a nice like pacing break, but also little places where you can just kind of play with the toys they've given you. And often there's like an achievement hidden in there or just like weird little details defined. But sometimes it's just like, hey, this is clearly stuff that we had on the cutting room floor that we couldn't figure out how to make into like a whole game mechanic. But here's some remnants of it for you to play with if you want to see it. Like somewhere there was a whole snail riding race thing, and we decided not to do that. But we kept the snails in, so you can find them and ride around if you want. It's cool. And then they just drop, and it manages to escalate sustainably. So like the next thing you're doing is still cooler than the last thing you were doing most of the time. And I was unprepared for the finale to be just an absolute rush of completely wild. I'm not sure how they're doing this mechanics on par with like the most recent Jack and Daxter, where it's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna hit a button and suddenly change the entire world around you seamlessly.
Hope you mean Ratchet and Clank, because the last Jack and Daxter was a PS2 game.
Yeah,
Ratchet and Clank. Look, I confuse them. X and Y names are of that era always. But yes, Ratchet and Clank. But yeah, like the dimensional shift thing that they're doing, like that's the kind of thing that I'm seeing here. It's just like, whoa, what?
There is a moment where so normally it is a split screen because like you see what the other player is doing while you're playing. For the finale, it is still a split screen, but it is split between the two universes, and you can cross over into each other's. And
wild.
And it like where the line is shifting around constantly as like, oh my goodness. It's so cool.
Yeah, they do some just incredible. They do some absolutely incredible things with the form. And like it's always split screen, which I found interesting, but it really needed to be.
You need to be able to see what the other person sees in a number of the puzzles. The thing I thought was cool about this game that I feel like they in the last game, and maybe this was theming, but they ratcheted up the number of times that you're basically putting your life in the other player's hands. In this game, it was very much like, no, we actually have to be cooperating together or we both fall.
Yes. Yeah, that was the other thing that I really they've really like honed the co-op play, because it's so easy to make co-op play that like leads you to be annoyed with the other person because it's like, oh, the other person screwed up and so I died. And that doesn't happen very much here. It's more, oh, we both needed to be doing this thing together.
Yes. There is a moment in which like you are doing a stealth section while the other player is playing a sniper, and like, but the sniper rifle like temporarily disables the enemies, and so like they need to disable the enemy so you can rush past before they come back up. I'd play a whole game like that. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it was honestly, there were multiple sections that were like, this is a 10-minute part of the game. I would play this as a complete game. I would pay $50 to play this as a complete game myself.
But I do think, yeah, the fact that it kept things so fresh also kept things moving.
Yeah, I have no idea how this game gets made. Like, the gameplay engineers on this team must be just either incredible or unbelievably sleep deprived.
I have to. My joke is currently it's thanks to time zones, because this is a game made in Norway, I think, some Scandinavian country, and
Sweden. They're in Sweden.
And EA is too asleep to micromanage them, because in interviews their engineers like, yeah, we have no problems with EA. Like, we understand people say EA is terrible. We believe them when they say EA is terrible. We do not have any problems with EA, and we are very happy with our partnership with them. Yeah, I am.
It's so good.
It's a really good game, and it like definitely a game I needed. I cried a whole bunch playing this game. The story really got to me.
Yeah, it certainly helps that we somewhat presciently, you could pick one of the two characters, and we sort of made it an offhanded joke as we were picking the two characters, but it turned out to be like the exact correct ones. But yeah, it's a good game. It really feels like it dialed in like what it wants to say and manages to say it without being like overwrought or preachy, but also clear.
I am definitely like I never even tried the prison game, and I kind of want to, but maybe if you're telling me it's too dark, I shouldn't.
It's not worth. Just play Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons instead.
Okay.
Which like is also going to hit you like a truck. Don't get me wrong, but is legitimately really good. Yeah, this studio with this game, this studio just took a seat alongside Supergiant with I will buy their next game sight unseen immediately. Like no questions whatsoever. I don't even need a title.
Re-release Xenoblade Chronicles X is out.
This just came out this past Thursday.
Yeah.
The best game. I mean, well, I think it's the best game in the series, but also I haven't finished 3. Sorry. The technically second Xenoblade game, Xenoblade Chronicles X, came out on the Wii U in 2014, 2015, something like that.
15.
2015. So 10 years ago. This game was a departure from what they did from Xenoblade 1 in a lot of ways. It used a very similar battle system, or at least pretended to be a very similar battle system. And in terms of like you have abilities and auto attacks and cooldowns and things like that. But the world structure was completely different. It is the most open world game I think I've ever seen. And while you'd think that would turn me off, the environment is interesting enough that I am just here for it.
Nice.
Yeah,
I was like, is that a selling point?
It is a big, crazy, beautiful world, and you can just spend hours just wandering around.
I mean, and you will, because they withhold robots from you for a good while.
It's true. But just like the environments, it's such a creative and interesting planet, too. It's just fun to just see what weird thing is around, like the next corner.
The game's premise is that Earth was destroyed, and humans had a colonization project, and you were on the ship, but it got attacked along the way, and they have crash landed on Mira. The colony ship broke up. They're trying to find pieces of colonists in stasis, things like that. You wake up with no memory of any of this, and you have to get along with the humans that are left in this extremely hostile space Australia of a planet.
Yep, so you have to learn about the world, figure out how to manage your resources, and make resources on this planet, work for you and replace what you need. Everything on the planet wants to kill you.
At least a decent chunk of them do. This game did a better job, the remake rather, did a better job compared to the original of marking which things want to kill you immediately and how.
This is fair.
Like, not every giant thing wants to kill you. Some of them just ignore you.
Yep.
Like, you do not matter to this giant sauropod-looking thing that is level 52.
Mm-hmm.
You're an ant. It doesn't care.
Yeah, literally, just the scale of some of these creatures is just crazy, too. Like, they did this on the Wii U, and it's just crazy. But it's super beautiful. A lot of the designs are just, like I said, just kind of wild and interesting. It's such a creative game. The combat is also much better. They've just made a few tweaks, and just even the way the combat is, and like how you know when to use your techniques and stuff like that. And the quick recast button, it makes a difference. It makes things a lot faster.
Oh, that makes the early game so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So abilities have cooldowns, and I think Penny Arcade even mentioned this back in the day. You can have a secondary cooldown that will make your ability stronger if you use it. And later, when you get overdrive, you can have a tertiary cooldown. You can have abilities that cool down 3 times. But early game, these cooldowns are kind of long until you get points to level them up, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they added in the remake a sort of resource that you can consume to instantly use an ability, regardless of whether it's on cooldown. And if it's already off cooldown, you can press the button to get the secondary cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
It makes early game combat so much more fluid, much less waiting. It's excellent.
It's I would say a bit more fun too, because it could be a little bit of a drag when you're trying to level up at first.
Yeah, I've greatly appreciated this.
Yeah, because you don't get overdrive until like chapter 5, which sounds fairly early, but it can take you a while to get there because you probably don't really want to rush a lot of this stuff. And so it is like you said, like a really nice way to speed up the early game. I'm curious to see if they actually explain in game better how overdrive works, because that was like a mystery. You just had to go read a guide or watch a video to understand how overdrive even worked in the original.
I have not gotten to overdrive yet, but I do know they made some tweaks.
Yeah, it's like 25 seconds instead of 15 initially, which that sounds pretty big.
Yeah, that helps significantly.
Yeah.
And also, they tell you what the overdrive bonuses are on screen.
Yes.
This was all just mystery information in the Wii U release originally.
Yeah. They've also apparently added about 20 hours worth of new story, which is great because the game kind of ended on a cliffhanger.
It sure did.
So I'm very excited to see what all they give us. A lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but they certainly dropped some hints and teasers in the trailers.
Watch, it's going to be another cliffhanger. But I would accept this if that means we get a sequel.
Yeah, I would definitely love another game of this because this game is great. I really love X2. I mean, I'm also a fan of the main trilogy, but yeah, this game is fantastic.
It does make me want, like, one of the things going back into this game made me realize that this game was definitely like, if I remember correctly, Monolith Soft helped a lot with Breath of the Wild.
Correct.
And this game shows, like, they were working on this to put into Breath of the Wild, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
But, just gonna say it, this game is a lot better at rewarding you actually poking your face into things.
Does this game's weapons break on me?
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, I like that. Immediately better.
I mean, the robots can break.
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
that's true. Yeah.
If you get destroyed in your robot and you eject poorly, your insurance will not pay for it, and you'll have to buy it again.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how they improved like skill combat too, because even once you get your skills, there's some stuff that like you almost want to fight it on foot anyways and use infinite overdrive. So, but I really want to fight in the skills more. So I'm looking forward to that. You can also kind of borrow your buddies online, like hire your friends who are, if they have registered their character as an avatar, you can put them in your party and run around with them. And there is some limited multiplayer stuff with your friends too.
You could do this in the Wii U version as well.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of funny because I remember going through the list trying to find out whose characters looked the most overpowered to just take them with me.
Yeah.
Currently, my character is a fresh newbie with no skills, but like, whatever. We'll get there.
Yep, exactly.
The other thing that this game, like, a thing this game has that Xenoblade 3 really had, but the other one kind of didn't, is a very in-depth class system.
Mm-hmm.
With a variety of passive skills, different weapons with which you can use different active skills. And man, can your character become overpowered. Like, just completely and utterly overpowered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your character can learn skills from all of your party members, and some of those skills are pretty busted. So if you kind of link a whole bunch of stuff together, yeah.
Maybe if you're getting started, maybe you make friends with Elma. That's a thing you should do.
Yes. That's not too hard because you pretty much have to have Elma for everything.
It's true. She is required on, I think, every single story mission.
Yep.
And if you do the silly thing and take story missions before going out into the world, you're stuck with the people you have your two story missions.
Yeah.
Although, actually, you aren't as stuck now. You seem to be able to switch up your party while you're on a story mission, so long as you're not in, like, certain areas.
Yeah. In fact, I just did a cutscene at the beginning of chapter 4, and I had, like, Elma and 2 other characters, and the cutscene, without me changing it, just automatically put Lynn in, and I didn't have her in my party at all. So it's less like you have to have these characters before you go do this cutscene now.
You do still have that for things like affinity missions.
Yeah, I believe that. You also don't need to go wandering around town to find your party members. You can just do all that through a menu. Which on one hand, that was kind of cool. It was kind of neat for immersion, but after a while, it's like, oh my god, Gwyn isn't in his usual spot. Where the heck is he? Oh my lord.
Run around town trying to find HB. Just where even did this person go? This insufferable idiot. The party members have varying states of both usefulness and character, let's say. Elma is a well-developed character who is actually extremely useful damage dealer and later gets some evasive skills so she tends to not die either. So, like, Elma's great. Lynn is a liability. She's given to you as your first tank. She is much, much worse than the other tank options.
Yeah.
And you have to drag her with you anyway.
Yeah.
Also, she has one character trait, and that is wants to eat the mascot character.
Yeah.
I support it.
They kind of run that into the ground a little too much, but
They run it into the ground immediately, and then you're still stuck with it for 7 missions.
okay, fair. But I mean, you have like 20 or so other squad mates to choose from later on too. So
It's true.
I think it's up to like 22 now with the new ones. So
Interesting.
yeah, there are definitely some characters that were not playable in the original version that I'm kind of hoping are now. I mean, I don't think they will be, but we know that there's 2 new characters, but I think there were still 1 or 2 slots unaccounted for in the new roster, and I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I still have a ways to go.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of chapter 4, I think.
Yep, that's what I'm working on right now too. But yeah, the game's a lot of fun. The world is great. The exploration is great. There is definitely a very Xenoblade story in here. It's just not exactly the main focus of this game.
Yeah, that's true. This game has a story. It is very Xenoblade-like. It is kind of not really not the main draw.
Yep.
Like, think main story of Skyrim.
This is another game too. You pretty much want to try to do a lot of the side content because a lot of the fun and interesting stuff is also in the side quests and stuff. Some of those get kind of dark, but they're interesting to do because it's a very alien planet. Also, I hope you like looking for lobster plushies.
Is that the collection mechanic?
There is collection mechanics and stuff, yes, but the lobsters were kind of an infamous side quest where you have to find, I forget the exact amount, but it is a lot, and they are small and hard to see.
So there's a game that I kind of stumbled onto, I think it was last week, that I had not ever heard of prior to reading an announcement of the sequel coming out, which caused me to go back and look at the original. Game is called Gunlocked, and it is essentially what if Vampire Survivors were a bullet hell shooter. And like it's a little clunky, and I'm hoping there's some stuff that is improved on in the sequel, but you basically start off with like one of these sort of cumbersome attacks like you do oftentimes in a Survivors style game, where you know, like there are 2 ships that you start off with, one of which fires a beam in front of them every so often. The other one,
that's the better one, believe it or not.
That's the better one. The other one will lock on a target and hit things every so often. So like it kind of takes a while for you to get a build that feels reasonably well, but like after a bit it's kind of fun.
I thought it was kind of fun, but yeah, the initial weapons are real bad. Unlike the other ships, the initial weapons are real bad, and it makes things feel not really great to start a run.
Right. And I'm hoping as more ships are unlocked, maybe that changes a bit. Like I see what they're going for. And I'm hoping in a sequel, they maybe give you a better starting toolkit.
Yeah, I'm definitely very interested in a sequel to this game.
It's a cool idea. The company as a whole does really cool retro art. There's another game that they created that I also picked up in the same bundle called Boons and Burdens, which is essentially playing one of 4 elemental sort of black mage looking characters that fire spells of a specific, elemental archetype. So like if you're, the fire mage, everything that they fire is going to be roughly in the fire family of abilities, and you roam around an arena type playing field and essentially just try and survive as long as you can. Its gameplay reminds me a lot more of Pesticides Not Included, but it's what was the game about blowing your friends up where you played wizards? Magica, yeah. The characters remind me a lot of Magica, but again, it's kind of got the same problem of like the abilities are kind of clunky. If they can resolve that, I think they're on the right track to something really interesting, especially with Gunlocked.
Yeah, the premise for this game is really good, and it's a bit of a game where you know very quickly how far your run is going to go.
Right.
Because either you get strong quickly or you just don't. Like you get behind, you get way behind.
Well, and the first few picks are really important because after a bit, you just only seem to get upgrades for those first few picks. So like you can't change direction in the middle of a run. But like I think the idea is really interesting. And if you had even if you had a very basic attack that you had some agency over, it would immediately feel a lot better.
I mean, I feel like that goes a bit against the premise here.
Yeah, I understand, but like, I don't know. Like, you're trying to make this work for a bullet hell shooter genre.
I will point out, in many of those games, you basically have a fire button that you just don't let go of. So they could have just done that.
Right, yeah.
But they did not.
Yeah, like, so the sequel's coming out, I think, fairly soon, so I will probably pick it up just so I can see what it was like. And this was interesting enough that I sent Ash a copy just because I thought it was a novel thought experiment, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I definitely enjoyed it.
Well, we have any short topics or anything else we want to talk about tonight?
Dwarven Realms has a new season. It just started on Friday. There's a new weapon added. There's a new race added. So, various tweaks to the different abilities and things. So if that's a game that you're interested in, it's worth hopping in and checking out what's new.
Hades has had even more updates. Still not technically released yet, but boy, you wouldn't know it.
As in Hades 2?
Hades 2, yeah.
Okay. Did I ever talk about Titanfall 2? Or not Titanfall 2, Titan's Quest 2?
I don't.
Not on the podcast, no.
This is the game that's coming from the ones that made Grim Dawn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I can definitely see what they're going for. It's not really my jam. It feels like a game designed for someone that thought Diablo 2 was the best game ever.
To be fair, we've had a lot of those.
Yeah. Mostly, I just think that the melee combat's a little clunky, but it probably is perfectly cromulent if you're playing something ranged.
I mean, they might get there. The complaint I've heard is that the boss does entirely too much damage.
Yes, it does. It is an eye-opening amount of damage, and if you are in melee range, like, there's not a lot you could do to really avoid it.
I'm very interested in this game, and definitely keeping an eye on it. They did not let me in the playtest, unfortunately.
Oh, did you try it too late?
Yeah.
Because I think they were pretty much letting everyone in for a little bit, but then maybe had too much attention. Because I noticed that option went away at some point.
Did you play the playtest, Bill?
Yeah. That's where I got my experience from. It was the recent playtest. I mean, it's interesting, but
I enjoyed what I played of Grim Dawn, I'll say. So I'm kind of
I like Grim Dawn better than I liked what I played of Titan Quest 2.
Sorry, what was that, Tam?
Separate topic. The character creator and benchmark for Dune Awakening is out.
What is Dune Awakening?
It's the Dune game. Sorry, it is using the new Dune logo, which looks like Dunk. I know that's supposed to be an E, but come on. But yeah, Funcom is back with another high concept MMO. Is it actually an MMO, or is it just like a sort of open worldy game?
I think it's mostly a open world survival.
I have no idea what this game is, because every time I read about it, it paints a picture of a completely different game.
I watched some footage recorded, like they had an event where they basically brought in a bunch of people that are known for recording survival game footage and flew them in. So like I watched, I don't know, about an hour and a half worth of gameplay, and it definitely felt like from that it was, I don't know, like in the same vein as Rust is the wrong word, but like it's an open world survival game. Maybe Long Dark maybe is a better idea.
I mean, this is the same studio that made Conan Exiles some years back.
And The Secret World.
And there's, I guess there's PvP in it as well.
Yeah, but I feel like Secret World was not designed as Conan Exiles was.
It's true.
Conan Exiles was just another big survival crafting game that happened to have multiplayer.
Yeah, like I have no idea what this game is, and it because I've definitely seen the thing that Belle is talking about, and I've seen another thing that's all talking about the narrative arc for it, and those two things don't seem like they have a lot to do with one another.
Right. I feel like this is going to be a confusing game.
Absolutely. I mean, also, like, just to lean in on the confusing part, the premise of the game is, what if there was no Paul Atreides? Which is...
That's a choice.
It's definitely a choice. It is certainly making some assumptions about how familiar its audience is with Dune as a property. But the benchmark, the benchmark looked cool as it flew through, like, just cool Dune environments.
Yeah, I saw somebody swallowed by a sandworm, and that was interesting.
Yeah, it seems terrible.
It seems like bad times.
Yeah, like if I'm gonna play a Dune game, like people getting swallowed by sandworms does seem like the kind of thing I would be expecting.
You can apparently get an ornithopter adjacent vehicle pretty early that allows you to not have to cross large swaths of open desert.
Anyway, I have more faith in this game than I do some other games I could name, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm surprised anybody's making.
Funcom always makes interesting games.
Yes. Do I necessarily want to play them? No, but I am. But they are interesting.
Like I didn't want to play Conan, but it was interesting.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this one's like pinged my awareness, especially in that I didn't actually think it was going to get made, but it sure seems to be getting made.
Well, and what's interesting about this one is it feels like it kind of got hatched fully formed, or at least more formed than I thought it was, because I remember when this was first announced, I thought, okay, we'll see this in 6 years. But then they started showing like actual footage of people playing it, and like, this is further along than I thought it was.
Yeah, like that was my takeaway, just like looking at their benchmark and stuff, is like I was not expecting this here. Huh.
I mean, they had probably kept it under wraps for a lot longer than we realized and did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah.
Well, that is probably a show. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. And we will see you again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.